And our final topic of the day, Rivian has announced their R2 SUV, and they've also announced plans for an R3 model. Now, the new R2 is supposed to come out in 2026, so not soon, still a couple of years out. It's an SUV that's slightly smaller and slightly cheaper than their current R1S, I guess, right? But it's still a capable electric SUV, still more of like a off-roady, outdoorsy camping vehicle. It's going to start cheaper. It's going to be 45,000 USD. It's going to have 3 different motor options, so a single, dual, or triple motor option. It's going to be similar in size to a Model Y, so it's slightly smaller than their SUV, but it's not a sedan. It's kind of like a crossover, sort of. Still looks like Rivian, still has those 2 headlights in the front and then a nice tail lights in the back. It's gonna also come with the NACS charging port. So in our last podcast, we were saying how great it was that Ford is giving charging port adapters so that Ford vehicles, Ford EVs, will be able to use the Tesla superchargers. So this car will be, or this vehicle, not car, this vehicle will be shipping with the NACS charging port, so no adapters needed. It's going to be fully compatible with all the Tesla superchargers out there and the Rivian charging network. And there's apparently this brand new steering wheel with haptics that's going to give you better feedback. But along with announcing the R2, they also had one more thing, sort of taking a note from Apple. They've also announced the R3 and the R3X. It's supposed to be even smaller than the R2, an even sportier combo vehicle, and there's no specific date on that yet. They've announced the R2, they've announced plans for the R3, and it seems like as they're producing vehicles, they're kind of getting smaller and smaller. What are your thoughts on, I guess, this model from Rivian, right? With Tesla, they kind of stuck with, okay, the Model S and then the Model X. Those are their 2 main staples, and then they're just going to keep on refreshing those. Do you think at some point from Rivian we get an updated, an R1T, an updated truck? Do they stick with the R1, or is it okay, now by the time they get to R4, now we're ready to do another truck again? Or are they done, I guess, with the trucks, with the pickup model, and it's only going to be SUVs, crossover vehicles? I would say yes. I think it overshadowed the R2. I mean, even when I don't know if it was I saw a headline or when I first heard of the topic, the first thing I saw was Rivian announces R3. And then when I was looking around for stuff, I was like, Rivian announces R2. It's like, wait, what? I thought I saw the R3 was announced. Like, is this a typo or like what's going on here? And so, yeah, I would say I'd agree. Most of the headlines, at least that I've seen, are talking about the R3. I do think this would have been one of those times where they should say, yeah, where they should hold off on the one more thing, because it's definitely stealing the headlines away, especially for the fact, especially considering the R2 doesn't come out until 2026. So we're still 2 years away for you to get people interested in the R2, and you've already talked about what's coming out next. And it's not even like, I don't know, just like digital mock ups or anything. It seems like they have an actual vehicle, like an actual concept vehicle that they did a photo shoot with, they have interior images of. So yeah, I'm surprised by it. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but there's an R3X version, which is okay, the R2 is a little bit smaller than the R1S in terms of an SUV. The R3 is a little bit smaller. The R3X is like, it's sportier. People are saying, or they're saying it's more like a lifted hatchback. And I love hatchbacks. I love hot hatches. So yeah, the fact that you announce this at the same event as the R2, or at the same press release, however you want to put it, I think it definitely steals some of the thunder away. And I guess the only thing is, as you put it, maybe this doesn't come out because they don't have a confirmed date. They don't have a expecting to come out by 2030 or whenever it is. They're just saying at some point we're going to come out with this. And car manufacturers, I guess, are the most popular for doing this. They have these amazing concept vehicles and these amazing, concept photos and videos, but then we never see the cars. I would say this isn't quite that because, as cool as it looks, it's not that outlandish. It's not that far off from what they usually do. So I do like the R2. I do like the R3. I like the R3X more, and it is strange that they announce so much in one event. Yeah, personally, I think the R3 and the R3X overshadowed the R2. So, but I guess yeah. What are your thoughts then? What do you, if you were running Rivian, would you have held off on the announcement? Would you have, I don't know, maybe waited for 2026 to come around till it's like, oh hey, we're shipping R2s now, and by the way, here's the R3 and the R3X. I like the interior design of it. I think it seems more comfortable than the Tesla. And once again, I've been in a couple Teslas before. Never been in a Rivian. I don't own a Tesla or a Rivian, so this is mostly from like what I've seen on the internet of them. Tesla's interiors almost seem like more sterile. You're inside the cockpit, whatever you want to call it. You're inside the cabin, and as you put, there's just a big screen just right there, especially when you have like the Model 3 and the Model Y. The fact that there's no speedometer in front of the steering wheel, it's off to the side. That doesn't, to me, that doesn't make sense like from a car user standpoint. Because if, in order to even just see how fast I'm going, I have to take my eyes away from directly ahead of me. I have to look slightly like down and to the right. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't seem safe. It doesn't seem efficient. So even just the simple fact that they still have a screen, or they still have a speedometer behind the steering wheel, yeah, you win there. As you mentioned, the main touchscreen also is more integrated. It's not just a tablet that seems to have been thrown up there. The dashboard, I like just the rest. I guess the rest of the dashboard, yeah, it seems like a cozier interior. It seems like a nicer interior, and it seems more welcoming as opposed to just, yeah, the sterile nature of what Tesla seem to have. I like the sunroof, or I don't even know what you call that, right? It's the entire, like a panoramic roof at the top. I like that a lot. You got flashlights in the doors, and they have glove boxes in this too. I think the R1S and the R1T, I don't think they had glove boxes. I think that was a pain point that some people had. Like there was storage underneath the seats, and there was storage in the middle compartment, in the middle armrest, but there was no actual glove box on the passenger side. So yeah, it seems very roomy, very comfortable. It looks nice. It seems functional. So I think they did a very good job with the interior of this. And as you mentioned, the fact that they have stalks, like it's not that crazy to have stalks on your steering wheel. You know, for left turn, for changing the windshield wipers, for simple things like that. Like there's not everything always has to be reinvented. And even for Tesla, right? These are instances where it would have been cool to just have something in the concept vehicle. And you could say, like, oh, look, we're doing away with the speedometer behind the steering wheel, and we're doing away with, who needs a steering wheel when we have a steering stock, and or not steering stock, what they call it? Yeah, who needs a steering wheel when we have a steering yoke, and who needs actual stocks when we can just give you these controls on the touchscreen that's off to the side and out of your way. This steering wheel from Rivian just makes sense, and they've done a good job of updating it, making it more modern without taking away what works from previous cars and previous steering wheels, I guess. I'd say it looks better than the Tesla, but I really like the design of the Mustang Mach-E. Like it's not a typical Mustang, right? It's not a coupe. It's not a sedan. It doesn't seem like a typical sports vehicle, but I like what they've done with it, and I see them more on the road, and I think the more I see them, the more it kind of grows on me that, yeah, I do like that design. I'd say this R2 is like pretty close to it though. And the thing I like about the Mach E and this Rivian is they look like a regular SUV or a crossover, whatever you want to call it. They look like a regular one, especially if you see the profile of it. And then when you see it, when you look at the front, and it's like, oh, okay, this is an electric vehicle, either because they have like weird or interesting headlights, right? Or they have no grill on the front. There's some things that, that give away that a vehicle is an electric vehicle. But other than that, they look like a standard SUV. which, to bring it back to the steering wheel, they're not completely changing everything for the sake of changing everything. Because this is an EV, it has to look like no other EV, or it has to look like no other SUV out there. It has to look completely different. It has to look futuristic. No, it's just a regular looking car with a few tweaks that are possible because it's an EV. I like that about it. Like, they've made changes where they're able to make changes, but they don't change things just for the sake of changing. Like this Cybertruck, you don't need to make a pickup truck look like that. They're just making it look like that because they're like, oh, this is the future, and because it's from the future, it has to look completely different and not look like any other vehicle out there. Like, sure, but you could also just make a regular looking truck and it could still be faster, better pickup speeds, have better towing capacity, be more, have better range than a typical truck would. You could still do all of those things and not make it look like it's out of a cyberpunk video game. Design wise, I would say it's tied with the Mach E right now, and I would need to see some of these in person. I've seen more Mach E's in person, so I know that I like how that looks, but yeah, I would say it's ahead of the Tesla, tied with the Mustang right now. But I guess what do you think of the design of it? How would you rank it? I guess in terms of the Tesla, the Mach-E, other EVs out there.